Hello, creative spirits. I'm back. I'm here to speak with you today about the Hermit, archetype number 9 in the tarot. I'm sure you've heard that 2025 is the year of the Hermit because 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9, the Hermit's number. So it's January 14th as I'm recording this. You may have had all that you need to hear about the hermit as we head into this year. But at the same time, we're spending a whole year collectively connecting, learning from this card. So here's a little something else. And what I'm going to share right now is three different statements from a list of 12 that I created and shared in our Hermit workshop, which we had last week in the Creative Magic Collective. The Creative Magic Collective comes with many things, which I will review later, but one of them is a monthly workshop where we dive deeper into some aspect of the tarot or creativity or magic or something in the intersection of those things. Usually these are experiential, where we work with something together. We get to share results, we get to ask questions. So, this workshop was intended to help us connect with the hermit and explore as we get into this year what the hermit might be bringing to us personally. If the hermit's talking to all of us this year, it's going to show up for each of us a little bit differently because we are unique. We are walking our own hermit paths. So, for the workshop, yeah, I came up with 12 philosophies, statements, affirmations, promises that the hermit might keep or live by. And we went through them one by one. They were each paired with a different version of the hermit card. So we saw a lot of different versions of this archetype from different decks and even through history. And at the end of our workshop, or near the end of our workshop, I could say, we took some time to explore through our body's responses which of these 12 statements seem to resonate for us personally because the body was stirring or reacting or having a tingle or a flush of warmth or something like that. And then we took that list of things, the list of the statements that showed up for us as responsive in our bodies, and we used our brains to check them, narrow them, whittle them down a little bit. And then we used those to make our own tarot spreads. And we pulled our cards, we compared results. There was space for asking questions about what we got. And I thought I would share three of these with you, three of these statements, and talk a little bit about them in hopes that for some of you, or maybe all of you who might be listening, that they bring a kind of lantern, a guidepost, a North Star for you as we enter this hermit year. So I haven't picked out which ones I'm going to share, but I have the whole list and I'm going to use Google's random number generator to pick them out. So here we go. I'm going to click the generate button and we have number 4. Number 4, which was actually a popular one in the workshop, is I understand the journey is the point. So this is something the hermit believes, understands, lives by. I understand the journey is the point. And we see in the Hermit card this figure, usually an older man with a white beard and a hooded cloak, standing alone on what looks like a mountaintop. The suggestion, of course, is that the hermit walked there. He didn't take an Uber. He's been walking up the mountain by himself on this journey that probably is arduous in certain ways. And the mountaintop looks chilly, looks icy and cold. And the main source of warmth or light in the image of the hermit is coming from the hermit's lantern. And so the hermit is about, among many things, is about cultivating wisdom that we can find within ourselves or that we have encountered in life, but have integrated and come to embody. So there's plenty of wisdom out in the world. Go to the library, get an old encyclopedia, find some information or wisdom. There are many spiritual teachers who lived and shared their teachings before us, and each of us kind of encounters different aspects of the collective human wisdom, and we think about it, we work with it, we try it out, we practice it, or we discard it depending on how it feels. And as it couples with our lived experience, that wisdom becomes new and changed and flavored and becomes part of what lives inside of us. And we get to access that. I think we also have access to wisdom that we didn't actually necessarily cultivate ourselves, but that is perhaps inherited or exists from the ancient lineage of humans who've lived before us, that energetically, spiritually, cosmically, whatever, we have access to that wisdom. Back to, I understand that the journey is the point. Walking the journey for the hermit is how that wisdom is cultivated and encountered. The hermit has a lot to do with the fool, who is also on a path and taking a walk, moving forward into the unknown. And the fool is youthful, looking a bit flamboyant and jovial, ready to greet the day, ready to greet the world, ready to greet this adventure. And then 9 cards later, the fool begins to look like the hermit, this matured journey person who has met all of the archetypes between the fool and the hermit. So the magician, the high priestess, all the other episodes we've done, right? And then takes that unto themselves, goes into the wilderness alone to find out, what does this wisdom mean for me? How do I want to use it? What else is in here that's mine, that didn't come from out there in the world? And so walking this walk alone for the hermit is how this wisdom becomes deeper. And this is a bit of a prelude to the next thing I'll say, which is that we live in a world and a culture that is very destination oriented. So it's about being able to buy the next thing that symbolizes success, achievement, maturity. It's about having the next thing to symbolize that we have matured, succeeded. I think a lot of like the heteronormative messaging we get, getting married, having kids, Not that people don't genuinely want that, because I know they do, and that's cool. But a lot of it, and I certainly experienced this as I went through my life, is like, if I don't have that, if I don't get to the place where I'm having a wedding or having a baby, is something wrong with me? The destination is getting married or having a baby. The destination is getting the promotion, buying a house, having property, buying a fancy something or another, publishing this thing. And all of these things are not, it's not like we shouldn't want them or that they're all empty desires. I'm not saying that, but there's so much programming about getting that thing that when you get there, you can be satisfied. You can rest assured that you are some kind of person, right? But if you haven't figured out who you are, if you're not in the process of figuring out who you are or what you want or what matters to you, you can get that thing and still be lost. You can still feel empty, right? So the hermit understanding that the journey is the point, it's like, yeah, we can reach for these things because we want them because they're meaningful to us. Hopefully they are not empty symbols we're using to validate ourselves. But we place so much emphasis on getting the thing that it's almost like do anything you can to get there, sacrifice anything you can to have it, put yourself through burnout, trauma, pain, whatever to get it because it means everything. And the hermit understands that, okay, yeah, I would like this thing. I would like to be able to teach this thing or share this thing, or I would like to be able to understand this thing. And then the journey toward achieving that is as valuable as the thing itself. And I say this a lot to my coaching clients, my creativity coaching clients who, maybe working on book projects or some other kind of creative project. And it's like, oh, I should have finished this already for my agent. I'm behind schedule, or I've tried publishing a few times and it hasn't happened. Something's wrong with me. Should I give up? Whatever. And it's like, there's no awareness yet that actually going through the process of creation is part of the point. Like the creation came for you, chose you to be the author, the artist, the whatever. It believes you can make it and it wants to collaborate with you. And then when you meet this idea, this creative bestowment from from the astral cosmic realms or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to be this. I'm going to be the artist for this. I'm going to be the author for this. Then you start a journey, and it will be long, and it will not be easy, and there will be doubts, and there will be places where you get stuck. But going through the process of making the thing will change you. And that is the point. Not necessarily the book or the finished product or having it successfully heralded as brilliant. Those things are nice and we can still have that. And that's good to want that. Like, that's okay. But not at the expense of forgetting that the journey of making it is just as valuable. So, in the year of the hermit, as things get difficult, as some achievement or destination or desire seems to move further into the distance, and oh my gosh, now I realize I'm speaking to myself very much right now as well. How can we remember The journey is the point. Okay, I've still got a ways to go, but every step I'm taking, I'm learning, I'm experiencing, I'm thinking, I'm discovering. I get to keep everything I discover and experience on this journey. So we understand that the journey is the point. All right, let's look for another one. Number one. This one feels a little preachy in the way wrote it. So we can maybe revise it as we go. I seek what is true, honest, and virtuous in myself and in the world. Pardon me while I take a sip of my too late in the day coffee. One moment. I seek what is true, honest, and virtuous in myself and others. I think I take issue with this word virtuous, which I think could be misused by ideologues as like what is virtuous and what is not. And we all get to have our own interpretation of that word. But I think what I mean by that is like what feels real to us, what feels like it's honest, like it's not bullshitting, like it's not pretending and performing, what feels like it holds beauty and goodness. Maybe that's what I mean by virtuous. My particular version of this in the moment is like what feels beautiful and good and wholesome, not in the like PG, wholesome, like, oh, real family values. Like I don't mean that. I mean like it honors the whole. It honors the fact that we are human. Maybe I mean holistic. Maybe I mean humanistic. So I seek what is true, honest, and fill in the blank for yourself in myself and in the world. So the hermit is not out in the streets fucking around with bullshit, with charlatans, with misinformation. They're not getting wrapped up in performative people and performative situations. They like to talk to the animals in the forest. Animals don't have the ability to lie that I'm aware of. There are some deceptive animals, or let me say, there are some animals who have some deceptive practices, but by and large, animals are just what they are. They're doing what they do. They are just living. What you see is what you get. You know, we don't like understand everything about them, but pretty straightforward. And I think the hermit is like that too. The hermit doesn't put on airs, not concerned about like how they're perceived. They're just being as they are, living in a way that feels true. So, in capitalism, there are many, many things, many corporations that are angling for our attention, our money, and will put a lot of like bullshit in front of us to compel us to buy the thing. And, you know, not everything we buy comes with this mm, allure, this persuasive performance, right? But we're surrounded all the time by like advertisements and false stories. And so, how in the year of the hermit can we turn away from what feels misleading, false, dishonest, overly performative, And how can we turn toward what feels genuine, what feels real, what feels honest, what feels authentic, and what feels like it honors the humanity of things or the beingness of things. So we're looking for these qualities in ourselves. What's true about me? What's honest about me? How am I honest with the world? How do I bring, how am I affirming of humanity? And how do I know what happens inside of me to help me recognize when these same qualities are right in front of me? And how can I seek them out more, whether that's like in books, in what you listen to, in the media that you consume, in the way that you consume material goods, in the way that you interact with people and the people that you interact with. All right. Number 3, hit the generate button. We have 2. Number 2, I honor my own timing and move at my own pace. This one's super, super hard as modern humans. So, so hard. So, the hermit on their walk up the mountain, down the mountain, around the mountain, or through the woods, or wherever they may be walking, is not in a hurry. Remember from the first one that the journey is the point. So they're also taking in the journey if they're like trying to get there to the end, to the destination, which is a construct. If they're in a hurry to get there, then the journey becomes harder to enjoy, harder to take in, harder to experience. We're just trying to rush past it and get to the end. The hermit's not doing that. The hermit's one step at a time, going at their own pace. Some days they may have the energy. The sun is out. It's warm. They had a good meal. They can move with a little more oomph, a little more excitement, a little bit picking up the pace a little bit. Other days, maybe it's cold and snowy, and they need to find a little cave to hide away until the storm passes. Maybe they've been walking at a steady pace for days and days and days, and they're ready to rest. They need some rest before they pick up and keep going. So there's some downtime, there's some stillness, there's building a fire, foraging, making food, and the journey is kind of paused. The journey is still for a moment. So in modern life, most of us, many of us have jobs. Some of us, many of us have children, or we care for parents, or both. We have errands to run. We have to get groceries. We have bills to pay. We are social creatures who have other engagements, some of which involve getting into some form of transportation to arrive somewhere and come home somewhere. So lots of moving around. We're a very time um, time focused people. When I took a trip to Iceland, I learned that the people of Iceland don't make a lot of commitments or plans with one another in certain seasons anyway, because there could be a sudden storm and you're not going anywhere. So they don't say, like, oh, let's meet up. Let me come over in 2 weeks and we'll mend this fence together. It's like, we'll see, we'll see how it looks. We'll get together soon. And where I live in America, we don't roll like that. You're supposed to be somewhere at a certain time and be on time. or be only moments late. So it's really hard when our lives are full and full and full of things we have to do, deadlines, responsibilities, expectations, all of that, places to go, to even consider moving at our own pace. And many of us don't even have a sense of what our own timing is because we don't really have the luxury of exploring that. We are on other people's timelines, and that's not cool. So, what would it look like for you, for us, to try, even by 1 degree, 2 degrees more, 5 degrees more, to find out what our own timing is, what our own pace is, and to honor it? So, because the world is like it is, and many of us we internalize that external schedule of going quickly, always being busy, always feeling in a rush, to the point that if we stop doing something, it feels really weird. It does not feel comfortable. We feel like we've gone wrong somewhere. And it takes effort, it takes awareness to say, like, oh, this is a lot. Why am I doing to myself what the world has been doing to me since I became an adult? I'm burned out. I'm tired. I want to take a walk in the park and listen to the birds and not look at my phone and just slow down and experiment with different paces, different timings. So that could look like doing a calendar audit at the beginning or end of each month and looking ahead a few weeks and saying, how can I make more space for myself? Like, what is not mandatory? What do I not really, really want to do, but I'm doing because I feel like I should? And can I say no to that so I have some space to move at my own pace in my own time? I think it's also really beautiful. Having a creative practice is beautiful for so many reasons, but one other function it can serve in our lives is to give us a space, a bubble, a container within which we experiment with our own timing and pace, where the project is not like outcome driven. There's not a deadline on it. It's a kind of like exploratory project. It's just a practice. It's just a process. We get out pen, paper, ink, markers, and do some stuff. Make some stuff. Make some lines, make some colors, see what happens. And we just have a space where we do it in whatever timing we want. We might have like a flurry of pen strokes, and then we sit back for a second and look at it and think, okay, what do I want to add now? And then we slowly reach for a color and slowly put it to the paper. And then it's moving again quickly. We feel this connection to what it wants to be, what it wants to do. And then we feel this flurry of movement. And so we get to experiment in the body in a small way with a natural kind of pace and timing, which the hermit would fully support and endorse. So, those are some ways that those things can look. And just to review them again, we have I understand the journey is the point. I seek what is honest, true, and virtuous, or some other replacement word, in myself and in the world. And I honor my own timing and move at my own pace. So, those are 3 principles from the hermit that we can work with this year. Again, I made a list of 12. And we went through all of them in the workshop and then used them to make a spread. We pulled cards. We had time to discuss and ask questions. One thing about I love about these workshops is that we get to see what it's looking like for other people. Like, what are other people choosing? What cards do they get? If, you had a 5 card spread and 4 out of 5 cards are like, yeah, I get it. I see that. I understand this. But that 5th card, you're like, what is going on here? That's where we can bring this to the group. And I can bring my experience as a tarot reader to bear and offer some perspective, which I find usually helps someone see a connection for themselves. So there's support in that way. And I also find that when we gather together, there's a kind of like interesting magic that comes from the collective. For example, the day of the workshop, I was walking my dogs at this park that we often go to, and I do see deer there sometimes. But on this particular day, I saw 3 deer tentatively crossing an open field, which is not something I had seen before. I usually see 1 or 2, either like jumping across the path from like the woods to the other part of the woods, but I don't see them out in the open like that. So that was kind of interesting. And then come to the workshop, and another person, a community member, was brought up the deer. They had seen deer where they are in a totally different state. Obviously, not a big deal. Like, there's deer all over the country, but the deer is something associated with the hermit. And the hermit used to wear antlers in some of the depictions of this card. And so it's like, oh, this person's seeing deer. I'm seeing deer. The hermit knows the deer, is the deer. Like, it's just this extra interesting magic that shows up when we come together. So I'm super enamored of this community. And just as a reminder, you can revisit the Hermit Workshop by joining the Creative Magic Collective. This workshop and pretty much every other workshop I've ever taught is in the learning library, and every new workshop will be added there. And then right after I get off this podcast recording, we're meeting for our very first create session. So we're going to be gathering for 45 minutes to work on our creative projects, to do exactly the thing I was just talking about, honoring our own timing and our moving at our own pace. So if people have existing projects they're working on, this is a dedicated time. If you didn't find it in the rest of the month or in your week, here's some time for doing this. We're going to come together. You can work on your projects. Or if you don't have a specific thing you're working on or you need a break from your project, I'm going to pull a card. I'm going to bring an inspirational quote, and you can just like fuck around, have fun. And then we'll share a little bit at the end. So we have create sessions once a month. We have journaling sessions twice a month. We have tarot office hours once a month. So there's something going on every week if you want to come. And then we have the monthly workshop next month in February. Maria Minis, oh my God, is teaching she's going to guide us through a self-love ritual with the lovers for February. Maria Minis was on the podcast for the Justice episode and is the author of Tarot for the Hard Work, which is all about how tarot can help us deepen and explore our own anti-racism practices and orientations. Such a cool person, and I'm so excited Maria will be joining us. So we also got like chat spaces in our online headquarters. So there's conversations going on all the time. It feels really, really good. And I'd love for you to come if you're seeking some community, if you want to deepen your tarot practice, if you want some mystical people to surround yourself with as you continue your own creative journey. So check it out. It's on typewritertarot.com, and you'll see it at the top, Creative Magic Collective. And then if you're not already on the email list, you can join on the website and you'll get the first 3 prompts from Tarot for Creative Spirits, my journaling workbook that has journaling and creative prompts for every card in the tarot, which you get a copy of when you join the collective. And you can use it in our journaling sessions. Like it's all feeding together. That's beautiful, just rich situation. The other thing, I'll shut up in just a second, but the other thing is that nothing that we do in the Creative Magic Collective is like cumulative. Like you have to do it in order. So you can't get lost, you can't fall behind. It's just there for you. There's just a lot there for you. And like the hermit, you can piece it together in the way that feels true for you, honoring your own timing, moving at your own pace, understanding the journey is the point. So come be a hermit in community with us, maybe. All right. Thanks for listening. I'll have more for you soon. Sending you lots of love, lots of warmth in these winter months, lots of care, and hope you are enjoying and embracing your creative and magical life. Thank you for listening, friends. Bye.